Well, hey everybody, welcome to Resilience with Rebecca. This is Rebecca, and we are here having a conversation with our guests. They are real conversations with real people about real life. We like to talk about getting in the middle of the messy middle and then getting back up on our feet afterwards. And our guests have dropped some truly awesome nuggets and tools that you can use to pull yourself forward when you hit a challenging season. Today, I'm super excited to introduce our guest. This is my fellow resilience builder, Angela. Now, what Angela does is she equips, educates, and empowers families to learn financial literacy to help them win the money game and build their wealth. She also empowers clients, families, and businesses with legal protection as a legal shield associate. Welcome, Angela.
Well, thank you for having me, Rebecca. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Super excited. It's been a while since we connected. So we were just playing a little catch up before the call started. But we're going to jump right into our resilience conversation. And I would like to ask you, is there something you're willing to share with the audience, maybe a challenging season or a difficult time that you felt like you faced where you had to really either lean into the resilience you built or learn how to build it?
Well, let's see. I was born in, no, I'm not going to go back that far, but actually, throughout my life, I have had to overcome a lot of things between just kind of an overview. I lost my sister in a car accident and her unborn baby when I was 12 years old. Uh, Married really young. I was just 16 when I got married after traveling all over the US. Uh, Growing up, I moved over 40 times before I left home at 16. I had my oldest son when I was 17, uh, married really young, and but I finished high school, went on to college, became a printed circuit board designer until I decided to stay home with my kids and homeschooled them, and was married to my first husband for 11 years, and he passed away when my kids were 4 and 10. And I did remarry, but I was in a very abusive relationship in that marriage for 23 years. So
Mhm.
during that time, my oldest son, he was a disabled Iraq War veteran, and he passed away in 2012 at the age of 29. Um, I also, during that time, lost my dad, and um, and going through the divorce was really hard. I would
Mhm.
almost say going through divorce is harder than losing a spouse to death because there's a finality there. Um, no worrying about decisions and things that have been made. And over the years, I've lost two best friends. Tragically, I've actually three best friends. Lost a baby in my fifth month. So
Wow.
yeah, and I took care of my mom for 6 years, and she passed away in 2023. And the end, not really the end, but I had open heart surgery in 2012 to repair a prolapsed mitral valve, and had to overcome that. And the way that I dealt with all these tragedies and things in my life was I've always been kind of a workaholic. And so I would just get to work. And when I was laying on my back and couldn't do much, all those things I had pushed away came to the surface and I had to start dealing with them. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Wow.
So since then, I've kind of been on a journey to heal from a lot of those things that have come through.
Wow. Wow. So do you feel like that as you come through that healing process or working your way through it? Because I sometimes I think healing, even in the best of circumstances, is still a lifelong journey.
Yes.
Especially like the losses you're talking about, that you don't ever get over them or past them. You just walk through them and learn to live with the loss. And so do you feel like that your understanding of how um, you built that strength in yourself or that resilience in yourself, it changed as you lived it? and it was not just a word anymore, but it was actually life?
Uh, I would have to say I didn't get through it by myself. Like, if I didn't have the Lord walking me through those things, even back before I knew Him, I would not have been able to get through those things myself. And I do feel like the way that I was able to, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly right, but um, the only way that I had resilience to get through those things was through supernatural power being poured out from God through me. There's just no way I could have walked through those things like just, you know, there's just certain things like having to tell your children that their dad has passed, or uh, having to bury a baby, or bury your son. Like those are just things. Well, one thing I will say is I've learned not to say I can't. That two things I can't wait for, because there were things that before my husband died, I was saying I couldn't wait for something to happen. And I had no idea that he was going to be passing before that came to pass.
Right.
And the other thing is just to say, oh, I could never go through that, or I can't imagine going through that, because nobody really can.
No.
God doesn't give you the grace to get through it until you're actually in the midst of it.
Mm. That's
Uh,
you.
yeah, you can't prepare. Like, he doesn't like dole out grace to here. This is how you prepare for it. It's like
How do
there's
you prepare for that?
there's
Yeah.
no preparing for those things. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, since you're talking about something so heartbreaking, what would you say to somebody who's in the beginning of those types of seasons right now? Like, how would you give them hope to build to to know that, I mean, we're using the topic of resilience, but it doesn't have to be that word. It can be, like you were saying, grace. It can be however it speaks to you. How would you encourage somebody that's dealing with this impossible to prepare for, heartbreaking season they're entering?
um, just to really turn to God during that time. I remember certain very specific times of like when my first husband was getting a echocardiogram, and we had been given the news that he wasn't probably going to make it for another week, and um, or even it was just day to day at that point. And I remember sitting in a chair and just feeling um, like God was holding me,
Mm,
like literally felt him holding me. Or it's just each situation is so different,
right.
and there's only one person who knows what we're going through at the time, and it's God. I had people try to tell me, like when I was 5 months pregnant, and uh, my baby had died, and they had to take the baby, and um, I had people coming to me telling me about their experiences of having miscarried a child, and I didn't want to hear that.
Right.
I did not want to hear that. I was going through what I was going through. And the only person that really reached out to me during that time that made a huge difference was a woman who had uh, lost a baby at birth. The baby had the umbilical cord wrapped around the
Mm,
neck, and had been born, stillborn. And her words, she just said, my feeble words
mm,
cannot express my sympathy. And when I read that, I just broke down, but, and then, there were people who came to me and just sat and cried with me. And so I guess it would be really hard for me to speak to somebody who's going through it to give them any comfort. I would just advise them to lean on the people around them, let God use those people to comfort them. uh, not to turn away people that want to help, whether that's financially, by helping doing things for them. I failed to mention we also had a house fire in 2012, about 6 months before my first son died, and we lost everything, got out in our bare feet and pajamas, um, and my father-in-law gave us some really good advice. One good thing I'll say about him is that he said, "Whatever you do, don't turn down anything that people want to give you or to help you," because we didn't have insurance and there was just a lot of things going on at that time, and we didn't. And we got to see the most amazing outpouring of
Mm,
how just see how God could just pour out blessings,
mm.
that if we had said no, we don't know at what point that would have stopped. So
Right,
it's
right.
hard. It's actually hard to accept people, you know, helping in ways like that, or just crying with people and be vulnerable. And because if you don't do it when you're going through it, it will catch up with you later on.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I remember when I was going through the loss of my mom, people would say all the, I'll call them stupid sympathies, things I've learned not to say to other people, but their intentions were good. I know that, but they would say those things and they would actually hurt more than they would help. And I just remember one lady just came up to me and she didn't say a word. And she just put her hand on my shoulder and she squeezed my shoulder and she patted it. And then she looked at me and walked away. And it stands out as the most beautiful outreach of love during that time. And she never said a word.
yeah,
So it was like,
that's
that's, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that sometimes it's not our words. It's just really
hardly
coming
ever.
alongside people, and one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and hope you don't mind me sharing my faith, but is the shortest verse in the Bible, and it's Jesus wept.
Mhm.
I was just thinking about this yesterday. I mean, it's so profound that, and sometimes, we're afraid to just really be vulnerable and show our emotions, and here the very Son of God just, he wept. And that was when, uh, just before he raised Lazarus, I believe, from the dead. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I just think coming alongside people and weeping with them is huge.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Agreed. So with everything that you've mentioned to us on here about the things you faced in your life, I'm sure there's been days where you haven't felt strong enough. So how do you get up the next day when you just don't when you don't feel strong enough?
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes we just need a day to wallow. Like we just need to like really get in our feels, and sometimes it's just so it's like a pressure cooker being relieved when we let those tears out. And I think that's why a lot of times people will say to me, "Oh, how can you be so strong?" And it's like you don't see me in those moments. Like um and I lead a networking meeting for military veterans and first responders, and and I often talk about my son who was a disabled veteran and his passing, and I I can talk about it because I've talked about it so much. And somebody
Mm,
could look at me and say, "Wow, how do you talk about it?" It's just like it becomes so a part of your life after a while, and you can't. Yeah, but no, as far as like how do you get up when you don't feel like getting up in the morning? If you don't, it ends up coming out in physical ways.
mm,
And I have had a lot of issues with my health because of times that I have not dealt with things. I've had shingles 3 times. Still deal with lingering shingles pain. I of course, the heart issues. And um, so it's important to let those emotions out once in a while. And if you don't feel like doing something, your body's trying to tell you something.
Hmm.
It's time to step back and um, don't worry about what other people think.
Right. What about people, Angela, who've said, like, well, this is like her story is, I mean, she's got all this loss. I haven't suffered anything close to that. And yet I I struggle to get out of bed in the morning, or I struggle to to become that strong person I know I can be. Like, what about me? Like, what about those people who don't have those? They look at their story and say, "Oh, I just need to be grateful. I just need to get out of bed and just shake it off and suck it up." What about them?
Well, I was that person because there was a time when other than having lost my sister, when I lost my first husband, it was like the really first, huge thing that I went through. And it was just as devastating to me as all of the other things combined. It just so everybody's pain is different. But yeah, I mean, you just have to deal with reality and know that I remember one time when my first husband and I first married, as you can imagine, marrying so young, we had our issues, we had our problems. And I remember one time I went and stayed with my parents for a weekend, and I thought our marriage was over. And my dad, he was the best dad ever. And I remember sitting on his lap and crying because I mean, it didn't matter how old I got. I could go sit on my dad's lap. Like he was a big burly man, he just, very loving. And I just cried and cried and cried one night. And he said, baby, he said, Bird, he called me Bird. That was my nickname. He's like, Bird, he said, things always look better in the morning. And
Mhm.
so that's one thing I would say is just realize that it may be daytime, you may be crying, but the next day you may not feel that way. Don't give up. Don't feel like
Mhm.
what you're feeling right at this moment is going to be forever. It's not. There is going to be a day when you're going to be able to laugh and smile and you don't have to feel guilty for that. One thing I was going to say is that my when my mom died, um, I had my son brought a friend of his to her visitation the night before the funeral, and we were sitting around talking about. I kind of come from an Irish background, and there's more of like a wake kind of a atmosphere where people tell stories and people laugh and I remember kind of laughing. And his friend, she was Hispanic, and when they left, she said, it's so different than in our culture. Like everybody just cries the whole time, and there's never any smiling or laughing or anything. But the thing that, like I told my son, I said, explain to her that that's really there's nothing wrong with that either. Um, but a lot of times when somebody is sick for a really long time, you go through a lot of the grieving process over a long time before that person even is gone.
Right.
And I feel like I had already started losing my mom from the time that my dad died. Like she
Mhm.
became a different person after my dad died. So I lost a little piece of her there. And then as she got sicker and got dementia and little pieces went away. So when she passed, it was wasn't I wouldn't say a relief, but it just I was ready for it. And so sometimes everybody grieves differently. It's just and we shouldn't judge people for how they grieve in public either. Um, I remember when my sister died, my sister who was 2 years younger than her. They were raised almost like twins. She was 17 and she had just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And all the young people had gathered around her on the porch of this funeral home and were trying to comfort her. And they started telling stories about my sister, and they started laughing. And next thing you know, this lady from the funeral home comes out and said and told them, shh, she's like, don't y'all know this is a funeral? And oh my goodness, my sister just started crying all over again. And so I would just say to people, if you're around people who are who are going through things, not to judge them at any point in time, and don't judge yourself.
Mm,
Like, it's okay to laugh when you're grieving. It's okay. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book called Joyfulness or Bust, and it's kind of about the journey that I've been through.
mm,
And joyfulness is a there's a huge difference between joyfulness and happiness.
mm,
Um, so sometimes when you see somebody who's grieving but they can laugh in the middle of it, it's sometimes it's that joy that's coming through. It's that peace that God gives us through it,
mm.
allowing us to be able to laugh.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Takes a little time sometimes to be able to laugh, but other times it comes a lot sooner than you expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel like you stay open-hearted with so much heartbreak in your own life? How do you feel like you can stay open-hearted to help others?
Um, so I think it's one of the reasons why I do the things that I do for business wise, because so I started doing credit repair, and I found out that probably 99% of the time, people who have financial issues, it's because of some kind of tragedy in their life. Like, it's either a divorce or a death in the family, they lost their job, or maybe they just weren't raised to know these things. And so to be able to turn around and help those people, um, I'm taking a course on to be a grief coach, not to make money at grief coaching, but because in this industry, like, you do run across a lot of people who want to tell you their story, and they're going through grief over some kind of loss or another.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's how I stay open. Because if I just take all that help that other people gave me and all the comfort, and I just keep it to myself,
Mm,
you have to have an outlet to be able to pass it on.
absolutely. Absolutely. So do you feel like you could define the word resilience based on your life story? Do you feel like you have a definition of what resilience actually means to you?
Um, it's really more of a felt, like, I don't know that I can actually put it into words. It's a lot of it comes with grit and tenacity. I remember my mom telling me I was one of the most tenacious people that she knew, and and this was back when I was had a 1 year old and was going to college. I was working during the day and going to school at night, and but I didn't let it stop me. But I would just say, just keeping going,
Hmm.
no matter what the roadblock is. Some roadblocks are put there to guide us. And that's where it's really important to be in prayer and be prayerful that we know the difference. Some of them are put there to test us and to strengthen our faith. So I would say resilience is just kind of, it's really, it's the A or A plus or the B or the C on the paper at the end of the test. It's kind of being able to look back and see that you didn't give up, and um, that's the best way I could explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. That like got the grade at the top of the paper. I was like, yeah, that's really good. I totally had a mental picture too.
I mean, and it can change, I mean, sometimes it's on a curve. So,
And sometimes the tests come out of nowhere.
yes, yes. I mean, sometimes it's the little things, just like I've recently been, I mentioned to you that we had a scare this last weekend because my oldest daughter's expecting my first grandson. And we're still guarded, but we were worried that she might have been losing the baby. And it brought back all those things that I had experienced with losing because she's 18 weeks. I was 17 weeks when it happened. And so, it brings all that stuff back up. And, but you know what? I hope that it's kind of prepared me to know how to comfort her, how to encourage her, and know that sometimes it's like it's out of my control to be able to, I need to just let her feel the things she's feeling. And, it's so a lot of times the things that we have gone through or are going through are because we don't see it, but down the road in the future, there's somebody's life that we're going to touch because of what we've been through.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's no doubt that happens. And it seems like it's kind of like the car driving down the street that you buy a new car. Before you buy your new car, you never notice.
Yeah.
You know, we just recently bought a car, and now every time I never noticed that car before. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest with you. And then it's like we bought one ourselves, and now everything on the road, I'm like, is that our car? Is that our car? Is that?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah. It's so true.
what we deal with when we deal with something and we come through it stronger on the other side. It seems like those cars are brought into our path that we can actually make a difference in somebody else's life and to give them encouragement to keep moving forward.
The day after I got the call that my son had died, there were a lot of things, there were a lot of arrangements and things that needed to be made. And we didn't have internet at home, but we had an office
Mm.
where we had internet. And so I had to go into the office the next day. We had kind of an outdoor business where we sold we had a heavy equipment business for 23 years, but we had kind of a retail side where we sold buildings and ornamental concrete, anything outdoors, And so I went into the office and I told my husband at the time, I was like, whatever you do, do not bring anybody into this office. Like, I'm going to be making phone calls. I'm going to be crying. I don't want to see anybody. Like, please, please don't bring anybody in. And I see a couple come and he's out there talking to them. And next thing you know, he starts heading towards the office with this couple. And I was like, oh, please don't. I can't see anybody. I mean, my eyes, I was a mess. And he walks in and he says, honey, I know you said you didn't want to talk to anybody, but this couple just came to pick up a swing and I want you to meet this lady. She just lost her daughter a month ago.
Wow.
And already right then and there, like God brought somebody into my life to comfort me. And we just sat and cried together.
Mm.
And so, I had no way of planning that, So, yeah, I have so many stories like that of just seeing God's hand in things and realizing that we are part of his hand and we're part of his plan, not just for ourselves. This life isn't about us.
Yeah.
It's about it's about the world, it's about all the people around us and who he's needs us to help. So yeah, that's
It's for a bigger purpose.
there's a yeah, much bigger purpose. But so, I mean, we definitely have a calling and we have a purpose. And it may not just be one thing. It may be a whole slew of things.
Oh. Well, as we close out today's podcast, I did have one quick question for you, and that's if you were a thesaurus. No, we used a dictionary before. We're going to use a thesaurus now. And I typed the word resilience in the search bar. What is your synonym?
Grit.
Grit. Grit. I like it. Says it all.
Yeah.
It's actually very self-explanatory.
There's actually a book called Grit that's really good. I recommend people to read. And it's on the commandant's reading list, I believe, as well. I have my two youngest sons. One's still a Marine, and the other one was a Marine. Um, but yeah, and if you ever want a really good self-improvement list of books, go to the commandant's reading list for the Marine Corps.
No, good to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, always looking for good reading material. Well, make sure you tell your sons thank you for their service. I know that one is has paid the ultimate price, but the other is still serving. So thank you for being a mom of service minded people and for serving the veteran community. I know that's a big part of your heart. That's actually how I met you, was through a veteran. And
Oh,
so, yeah, it's been a long
wow,
time.
I got
That's
that.
actually how
Yeah.
we met. But I thank you so much, Angela, for coming on today and being my guest. And I want to encourage anyone who heard this podcast who is dealing with similar circumstances, reach out to Angela. She would be a great resource for you to give you some tips and tools to help you navigate the season. And also, if there's anything that spoke to anybody, please feel free to share this anywhere you would share it with your friends and family to give them courage to move forward in the midst of those difficult seasons. I want everyone to know that no matter how hard it seems, you're never alone, and together we can make a difference. So I look forward to talking to you the next time, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Rebecca.